Good. Okay, we'll be back in our work session, and so we will go to Fly Casper Alliance Chair, Casey.
Well, thank you for putting us back on your agenda. We really appreciate your time today. What we're here today for is we're asking the commission to approve spending $250 of the $283 that is left from the previously pledged MRG for the first half of the year to cover the MRG for the third quarter of this year. We have $283,000 left from the original amount that you graciously approved for us, and SkyWest is asking for $250,000. We had a representative from SkyWest come to Casper a few weeks ago to get to know the community a little bit better, and I think that went really well. I think that he learned a lot about us. What we learned about them is that they are requesting MRGs from all of their at-risk markets, with the exception of St. George. And so us asking for no more MRG would be a hard no from SkyWest. We started the 78 passenger plane in July, which was the beginning of the third quarter. And we're hoping to see some better results in terms of breaking even in profitability for SkyWest with that bigger plane. We also requested that they have a plane that stays overnight. They call that a RON. And we now will be having that again starting in September. And that will help ridership of that 78 passenger plane. Glenn and his team at the airport are looking at some other options to get us away from the MRGs. And, if our best chance to get away from an MRG is to show profitability for several months at a time. So, but right now we're just asking if the commission would consider approving the leftover money that was approved at the beginning of the year for the MRG that we didn't use for the third quarter.
So Casey, I actually have a couple questions on the, as far as the other communities that are being asked to do the MRGs, are there any communities that are not doing it?
They're all doing an MRG that have been asked, or SkyWest leaves.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's my question. If they're being asked, are there any of the communities that just flat out said, no, we're not going to do it?
I believe that there are.
Okay. And then my other question, I guess, is directed back towards the clerk. The city, my understanding, the city put in 50,000. Is that, can that be applied now? And so that we're not spending all 250,000, or what did we, Tracy and I talked about it earlier, so I don't know what we found out or if we have.
Mr. Chairman, I have not had time to reach out to Fleur yet, but I will do that.
Okay.
Now with SkyWest, are you just talking about the Delta connections, or are you talking about the United connections, or
Just
everybody?
SkyWest, not the United connections.
Okay,
The United connections are not asking for an MRG.
okay, but I thought those were actually operated by SkyWest also.
They are, but they have a different arrangement with them.
Okay, so it's,
They're subsidized by United directly, and so
So,
they're not
yes.
being subsidized by communities.
okay, so it's actually more the Delta side of things.
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Casey, for coming in today. So that I and the public can be clear, my understanding is that the MRG for quarter three is just leftover funds from previously authorized amounts. Is that right?
That's correct.
My ask is that maybe you can give us just a little more information about why a RON, return overnight, or why that is important for people who are flying.
So For the past, I don't know, since March, I think, we've had one flight a day from SkyWest, and I believe it arrives in Casper around 10 and takes off around 11 in the morning. And that's a really tough connection for people coming to Casper to get on. And most of the destinations are all on the West Coast, and the furthest east you can make that connection from Salt Lake City to Casper is Detroit. So if you're flying from, a business hub or a financial hub on the East Coast, you have to overnight in Salt Lake City to get to Casper. And with Iran, the flight comes in late at night, so people have the opportunity to get from the East Coast to Salt Lake City and get on that last flight. And then the flight in the morning leaves really early, so people can, again, get on that 6 a.m. flight and get to wherever in the country they need to get to, and to catch international flights as well.
Thank you. Did SkyWest make a commitment for how long they would keep the 78-passenger plane?
No.
I'd sure hate for it to be kind of the carrot and then go away in a month or so.
I'm not under the impression that they're going to take that away. I think most of their destinations are going to that larger plane, especially in markets that are our size. There hasn't been any discussion of that leaving that I know of.
One more question, Mr. Chairman. And Fly Casper Alliance, is there a contribution for quarter 3 to the MRG?
Yes, there's a contribution through Advanced Casper.
Okay. And do you know what that amount is off the top of your head? I don't have it in front of me.
Do you remember what?
Good, Jeff.
So if I may, we had a little bit of a hiccup with our earlier commitment, but went through our accounting, and we owe the county $50,000 from the Advanced Casper sale. So that check will be sent. But as far as third quarter, we we had committed the same dollars that we hadn't used, but we have used those dollars now. The check that we're going to write to the county in following weeks.
So what I'm hearing is that there aren't additional funds being proposed to contribute from you, Justin, or the group at this point.
Well, that is accurate, but it's simply because the board hadn't been asked yet. We were under the impression we still have some funds left until we just recently, as of today or yesterday, realized the accounting error that we had made. So we were under the impression that we had already deployed that capital. So I have not asked our board for additional contributions.
Thank you.
Have we got any data showing just how many people are actually flying from Natrona County on this flight to and from Salt Lake?
We do have data, but I don't have it with me today.
Okay.
And we would have, so for the 78-passenger plane, and I don't even know if that data has been released yet, but the only data we would have would be from July, because that was when it first started.
So we don't have any information. I'd like to know what the information was from January 1st of this year, because that's one of the things we've asked for in the past, is to find out just exactly what percentage of those people that are flying are actually from Natrona County that are taking that. And the other thing I was wondering about is how many of these people are actually making connections and their endpoint is not Salt Lake, but if SkyWest is sharing that information with us as far as what the return is, because I know they get a portion of that flight from Salt Lake to the destination as well. And I'd like to know if SkyWest has shared any of that information with us, and if not, why?
I can ask Glenn. He's out of town.
I think what we're here for today is to determine whether or not we want to release the funds for the third quarter. We can always have a follow-up from you and Glenn to come here in the future just to, because I think we'd all like to kind of have an update as to where things are going and what prospects are on the horizon. So So-
Sure, we can do that.
Okay. All right. Do you guys have any other questions? Okay. Did you have something, Tasman?
I don't, oh,
Mr. Chairman, I did want to point out that when we met with SkyWest's representative and had him come to Casper, he did voluntarily come to Casper, but he came with the intent of letting us know that the MRG was going to be required for them to continue operating until we were at a positive state, just like Casey said. He came with a much higher request than what you see before you today. And that is because of the work that we did to show him that this community is not interested in continuing the MRG, that especially with the lack of the routes that we needed for July and August, that those are high occupancy months in any other summer, and that because of that route change, that it, we believe, adversely impacted the amount of people that could get on that flight and go anywhere on a Delta Connection flight. That otherwise, we were fine with the larger aircraft. That is a Delta requirement. That is not a SkyWest. They want 2 classes of service in all of their routes. And so I would say we pushed back very hard that the idea of the MRG going forward was not going to fly, for lack of the pun. And he heard that, but he again said that SkyWest would just pull the route without an MRG. So he came back from his initial request with this much reduced request. And so what you saw was July and August was below half of what he had originally asked for, and then September was lower. And we asked him to get us, any ongoing requests as soon as possible. So I want the commissioners and the taxpayers to know that we aren't just taking this MRG and passing it on to the commission, that we are working very hard to make sure that not only are we doing what we can with SkyWest, but also with marketing efforts and the such.
Okay. And again, this doesn't have to be for today. It can be for a future discussion, but I'm curious too, because SkyWest does handle both the Delta Connection and United, but you have one that requires an MRG and then one that doesn't. So I personally, in the next conversation, would like to understand how one can function without one and how one requires one.
That is actually pretty simple.
Okay.
I believe, if I may. The United has asked them to fly the Casper to Denver route, and that is on a contract basis. So it's like having an employee. They get paid whether that flight goes or not. It is not really within the discretion of SkyWest because they're getting paid a fixed rate. The Delta flight, the SkyWest flight that goes through the Delta Salt Lake connection, is an at-risk flight. And just like Commissioner North indicated, if if a passenger goes from Casper to Salt Lake, they get all of that revenue. If the passenger goes from Casper to Salt Lake and then carries on, they get a portion of that overall ticket, but they fly that at risk. And if they're not making money, Delta is not subsidizing in any way. So they're entirely 2 different arrangements. One is a contract with United. One, they are basically providing that connection to Delta through some sort of fair share, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
one of the things that we emphasized with SkyWest when they were here was that the current routing was not working for our community with these limited flights that they could get on and actually get to Casper without having to spend the night in Salt Lake, which is why they worked with us in giving us the significant reduction for the MRG for the beginning of the third quarter.
Mr. Chairman, Tasma, did you get the sense that the SkyWest representative, well, first of all, is that the same representative for both Delta and United, or would it be a different individual?
I believe it would be a different individual. I think United is a more direct relationship. They have just hired SkyWest to fly that for them.
Did you get the sense that that individual was kind of mid-level management or a higher up that can be the person to go to for future needs and concerns?
That's a great question. I wouldn't call him middle management. He, I believe, is as high as you can go without dealing with the C-suite, so to speak. He definitely has a supervisor that is pushing back on this MRG requirement, but he is as high as we get to talk to. He is in charge of the markets that SkyWest flies in. So he was pretty high.
Thanks, and thanks for helping with the negotiations. All of your efforts are appreciated. I think that the public needs that and wants that.
We're working really hard to keep the public in mind and everybody. We're part of that, so we feel the pain too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Heather, being as we've already approved this at some point in time, do we need to, we can't, obviously, right now, we're in a work session, but I mean, is this something that needs to be approved to release those funds for the third quarter?
I guess I'm unsure if there's, Mr. Chairman, if there's any type of paperwork that's required to release the funds. I guess potentially if that's the case, then it should be approved at a regular meeting, but I don't know if there is something that the commission has to sign off on to do so.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chairman, previously, there's been agreements for these funds with Natrona County and SkyWest, so I would assume, and I can forward the previous ones to Heather so she could have a draft or have a sample of how we've done those before.
Okay. And I think I would like to also answer the question on the city's behalf, or find out where the city's at on this too, and how that would impact some of the funds that we have available, so.
The city did vote on that on May 24th and approved $50,000 in their session, in their council session. So that should be in their minutes and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, we know it was approved. The question, I think, is when does that apply and how does that apply? So we'll get those questions answered, so, okay? Thank you. Okay. So we will move on to the county clerk for a Waco discussion.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Nicolason, is Jim on the phone?
Jim?
Oh,
I think he's still there.
okay. Just a quick update on Waco. We have the venue for the welcome reception secured, which will be the M building. We also have sent out some sponsorship letters to various vendors and are getting replies there. I guess the thing I need from the commission right now is the Waco board during the banquet, the night of the banquet, the Waco board, well, during the whole conference, actually, they sell raffle tickets and it's a 50-50 raffle. So at the night of the banquet, the ticket is drawn and proceeds from those sales go to a local charity. So I'm here asking which charity that the commissioners would like to see that contribution be made to.
Well, that's kind of an open-loaded question. Do we have one? Or what have we given to in the past?
If I remember correctly, we had given to the Suicide Prevention Coalition last time. So if you gentlemen would like to come up with a few ideas and email me those, and then we can take a poll or throw some ideas out now. I don't have to have an answer today, but.
Let's, each commissioner give some ideas, and then let's take a poll as to who we'd like those to go to, just because we have one on the phone and one not here at the moment, so I think if we do that, and when do you need those by and the poll completed by?
I would say probably no later than the first part of September.
So 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm probably, that's probably probably don't even need it till later, but I know how you guys are, so I'm
Yeah.
giving you a strict deadline.
2 weeks, 2 weeks.
Yep.
All right. Okay, anything else on that?
I don't think so. Do you guys have any questions for me?
How's it looking for sponsorships, just in general, or maybe it's too early?
I think it's a little too early, but so far, so good. So far, so good. We're getting we're ordering the bags and the swag and all that type of thing. So I think we'll have a great conference.
Tracy, I spoke with Justin this morning and advanced Casper's want to
Yeah, they sent me
sponsor
an
that
email
too.
today. Yep.
Okay, all right, I just
Yep.
wanted to let you know.
Yeah, thank you. So that's it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll hit Commissioner around the table. Commissioner Milne.
Yeah, can you go to the next one? Give me a second, I gotta find this. It's always a challenge. Yes, sir.
All right, Commissioner Nicolason.
Let's see. I think everybody's up to speed on, Michelle, on Health Department building. Other Health Department updates in general, I don't have any. Airport, I just sent the commissioners a couple graphs. Every month, as part of the board packet, Glenn includes emplanements broken down by airline, and so you can get a sense of the trend. It's not broken down into Natrona County residents or Casper residents, and I don't know even if Glenn has access to that information. But at least you'll get a sense, the commissioners will have a sense of where we're at as of July. You know, I think we're making some progress on Lodge, the Lodge situation. I don't think I haven't heard anything recently on Memorial Hospital Board and healthcare, so I'd like to visit with Commissioner Laird and you all about what we can do in that respect. I think that's all I've got right now. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner North.
We had a really good Parks Board meeting the other night, and we were discussing funding and different things.
Use your mic.
I got the mic on. So, anyway, we had a good discussion. We talked about funding for the trails, stuff like that for the master plan, and doing different things and different options. Central Wyoming Trail Alliance is actually looking at some different options as far as funding goes and grants and stuff like that, so we can actually get some things accomplished up there with some professional design as far as the trails go, and not just guys deciding what they want to do and when they want to do it. We did bring up the lodge, and I don't know if we've come up with a conclusion on what we're going to do with the existing lodge yet, but we need to make a decision on that. And so that we could either put it up for auction or we can move it or whatever else we're going to do. That's something we do need to get settled so Michael can move forward with that, whatever the next step's going to be. The other thing, the state has got approved $10 million for a shooting complex They did that this past year. Right now, there's a committee working together to find out just exactly what they want to see in that. I have been asked to sit on a local board to kind of look at some options, some different things, as far as when, what, where, and how. So we can work on that for a presentation to the state, to the legislators, when they get back in session in January. But right now, we don't even have any idea. We have a rough idea, but we don't know exactly what all it's going to take, to meet the requirements or anything like that. And until the committee comes up with that, that'll be something that we just need to kind of play it by ear. That's the main things that I've got.
Okay, Commissioner Mill.
Yeah, so the main thing for today would be from the fair board, fair and rodeo overall went really well. Ended up by 3.3% or so. So the attendance is up a little bit, as well as the total fair attendance. A lot of people came in to see the sea lions and then stayed to see the rest of it. We also had the National AKC Dog Show, 4-day dog show at the fairgrounds. There's around 1,100 dogs that were at the shows, so that's pretty good. They're still working on things. Overall, for attendance, there's about 25, just over 25,000 attended the rodeo. That's all week long. And for the fair, they had 135,000 or so. The statue that's coming in, or is in, I should say, the artist changed the design a little bit, so the fair board is having to have the contractor put in an additional 6-inch pad to help secure the statue in place. That'll probably increase the cost of the project a little bit. But, yeah, that's about where we're at.
Okay. On my list of things, we'll start off with Amoco Joint Powers. I had their meeting last Thursday. Really talked a lot about the golf course itself. The rounds are up this year quite a bit, but food sales are down, obviously, because of a remodel over there. And so there's just not that much going through there. Outdoor rec master plan meeting was last week. We had a commissioner on there that doesn't want to be on there, so I'll be taking that one over, effective immediately. I got a complaint out of we need to, maybe Dave, you can work on this one too, with the Parks Department itself, the bathhouse. Some of those bathhouses, like at the exclusive use of the boat club and ski club, those are maintained by those groups. However, the trailer park, I don't think anybody knows who's responsible for that, because our caretaker went up there and said that he was told he was not responsible, and it hasn't been cleaned all summer long. It was actually backed up. And so some people from he left, and some people from the trailer park went down there and cleaned it up and cleared the drains themselves. So, but we need to figure that out, whether we're in charge of that or if it's the HOA out there that needs to be resolved. I did bring up a couple times now, and now I've had a second company come to me requesting a letter in support of the fiber to rural areas as part of the ARPA funds that were being redispersed to get fiber out to rural communities or rural areas. I know that the stance so far that the commission has taken is that, and I just need to confirm this, that we can write a letter in support of that project, the overall project, but not in support of an individual company asking for that. And I've had two come to me so far that have asked for letters on their behalf, and I have told them that if a letter was to be written in support from the commission, it would be a blanket letter of support for the overall project or the idea behind what the funds would be used for, but not, not with their names on it. And I guess there's somewhat of a point system to it, that if they do need to have letters of support from local government in order to do that. So I don't think that we do nothing. We probably ought to get those letters put together just so we can help position our rural customers out there properly to be able to get that funding put in place to get them internet connection. And then the last thing, which was the first thing I had on my list, is the lodge itself. We've beat this dead horse in emails for a month now. I thought the last direction we had was for Michael Brown to give us ideas of where that temporary lodge could be used at within the county. He did give us an email back. That email, basically everything that it could have possibly been used on. There was a million reasons why we couldn't use it there, or it was going to cost us extra to remodel it or whatever it might be. But we can't, I personally don't want to see us move it off that spot and pay a company to come up and move it down the bear trap just so that we can auction the thing off and then have to pay again, or just initially pay to move that. If we can get that, in my opinion, if we can get that up on an auction block and get it offered up for sale, I'm sure you're going to have people that would be interested in buying it that would be on the mountain, that we don't have to pay to remove it from its location now. We can allow them to purchase it and then move it from that location themselves, and then that doesn't put the burden back on the county. But we need to get it done because we're very fastly approaching the time that Caspar needs to get in there and start doing some work. So that's all I have on that. If somebody wants to add on the lodge, I would like to have that conversation and make a decision.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate Commissioner North bringing that up. I misread my note. It said Mountain Lodge Building, and I was thinking about the new one, not the current one we own. But I think we have a September 1st deadline. That's when Caspar wanted to have the site to begin mobilization, deconstruction of the pad, and et cetera, et cetera. So my feeling is that, and I thought we had, reached a consensus at the last meeting. And anyway, it is what it is, and here we are. And, I just think that it should be auctioned. I think that trying to fit this for another use when nobody in the county, despite all these conversations, no department head has said, hey, I can use that. And also knowing that, it's not like a super solid structure that we would want to use for more than, I think, temporary purposes. I think we get rid of it, sell it while it's still got value. And I've made my thoughts clear on that we should do it. As far as moving it, if time weren't of the essence, then I would be completely in support of auctioning it on site and letting the move off be somebody else's problem. I don't think we can wait around, because I think our notifications and publishing it and doing it right is going to require weeks. And then somebody's going to probably need a couple weeks to get it moved. So I'd prefer at the very least to see it moved to maybe in coordination with Michael Brown and the contractor, Caspar, move it to what would be the very southeast corner of the existing gravel parking lot at the Nordic place, and auction it there. We'll have minimal moving costs, and as long as it's not totally in Caspar's way, then Caspar can move forward. So that's my thought on that.
Commissioner North.
My understanding is that because of the way that is designed, that you can't, you do need specialized equipment to move that so that it doesn't tear things up. Montana Sheds does have that. It doesn't matter to me whether we auction it off or what we do with it. I don't really care one way or another. If we can utilize it somewhere, that's great. If we can't, that's okay too. The overall cost for moving it back and forth, it's going to cost us the same thing to have Montana Sheds go up there and pick it up and move it to that corner as it would just about for them to bring it down and store it at their yard down here.
I thought it was by the mile, though.
Yeah, but it's an insignificant amount. I mean, when they take their equipment up there, they're going to charge you to go up there and come back. So it's going to be the same, or pretty close to the same as far as that cost goes. The advantage about having it down here, we could actually move it at our leisure. Everything has been disconnected from it. That's taken care of. Modern Electric was the last one that was going to go up there and disconnect the electrical panel off the side of it and get all the plumbing and everything else has been taken care of. So it is ready to move. And that's something, but Montana Sheds needs at least a couple of weeks to make that decision. So with that said, we haven't heard back. The last I talked to Michael, he hadn't heard back from Montana Sheds as far as some of that information that we were kind of looking for. But if we did move it so that we're out of the way for Caspar so that they can get started and stuff like that, that is something that we could look at, move it down here, actually put it on the auction block, and then, because Montana Shed's going to be the one that has to move it again anyway. The cost from there is going to be on the people that buy it, that purchase it. And it's not going to be much more if it's down here at their location than it will be if it's up there. I mean, you may be talking about 150, 200 extra bucks difference as far as that moving goes. So it's not going to be an astronomical amount, but that also is going to make it, maybe somebody down here wants it more than the people up on the mountain. It's hard to say. You don't know who's going to bid on things. So, and you also don't know when they're going to be able to get to it. And if we put it out for auction, then those people, whoever wins that bid, is going to have to make the arrangement with Montana Sheds to move it also. So it's not just a one-time shot. It's just, I'm trying to look at what's going to be the best for the county overall. And whatever we do, we do need to make a decision on what we're going to do with it. But that's my reason for, if we had it down here at Montana Sheds, they've got all the equipment. We know it's going to be moved right the first time. We know it's not going to be damaged and tore up by somebody moving it or trying to move it that's not familiar with that stuff. So, because they do have to have they've got a specialized trailer that they use to move those.
I would prefer that we get Montana Sheds up there to move it, just as you had said, Commissioner Nicolais, and just move it off to the side out of the way, just simply because of the fact that in the discussions that we've had here, I do know for a fact that there are people on the mountain that are interested in bidding on it. It makes absolutely zero sense to me to bring it down off the mountain to potentially sell it to somebody at an auction that's going to take it right back up the mountain. I would rather put it off to the side where it's out of the way. Let's do the auction, and then if somebody wins the auction, it's up to them to move it off of the mountain. If they want to move it to the lake, wherever they want to move it to, outside of it would be up to them to move it to its final place, and then it just does not cost the county additional funds to bring it down here.
Mr. Chairman, it seems to me that tonight we ought to make a motion, and I'd be happy to make a motion to have it moved in coordination with Caspar Building and the contract work that they're going to be doing, have Michael Brown spearhead the effort, and maybe that the preference would be to move it on to that parking lot unless in coordination with Montana Sheds and Caspar, there's a construction need or some other compelling need, and then just basically have Michael have the discretion to have it moved down the mountain. But that way, we won't not make a decision tonight.
And in that same motion, could we also make the motion to get the auction process underway? Okay. Are you good with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, did you have other stuff? Are we going to move on, or are we still commission roundtable?
I was going to move on unless you had something to add.
Well, I have a couple of things. Sorry. Library has gotten feedback on their facility needs assessment. I think they had it dusted off by a consultant, and so I would expect in the next 30 to 60 days, we'll be hearing from the library about what professional consultant and the library board itself, I think, and the Library Foundation feel is an appropriate facility. We asked them to do that. It's now getting close to being done. I do think that on letters of support for fiber, we can't pick sides, pick winners and losers. I think that I'm fully supportive of the program, and that, but I think we have to be real cautious, and we should not have it be in favor of any private entity. I would ask our legal department to look into the horse racing resolutions, and specifically, it is my information that there might still be a blanket one hanging out there. And I've got most of them here in a file, and I'll give that to you. But it looked like there may be two blanket resolutions to two different operators. One was revoked, and the other, it's a little gray area. So I think we ought to look into that a little bit more, and have legal get back to us on maybe a course of action. Thanks.
I get
Oh, go ahead.
one more thing.
Okay, and then, let me, on the fiber, if we're okay with it, I can forward the information the two companies gave. Obviously, they gave their own form letters, but if I could maybe forward that to legal to look at, and then we can do one that is supportive of it, but not supportive of one company, just supportive of the overall, the project, yeah. Okay. Commissioner North.
There have been several of the fire chiefs and emergency management personnel working on a modification of the wildland mitigation stuff. And we met last week, and we came up with a few additional changes that we needed to make. That was all sent back out to all the members that were present, so that they could look at it one more time before we present that to legal to take a look at. There was a lot of stuff that was in there that we can't do anymore. We don't have the personnel, we don't have the expertise and stuff like that. So it's, everybody approved of it. Everybody liked what the current product is. It was at that meeting, and there was about 8 of us that looked at it. So, and that included Brian Anderson and Nick from State Forestry, as well as Stacy and Mike Hagler, Stu Anderson, Matt Gackey, and Lisa Everts. So there was, it was a diverse group of people, individuals, and I think it's going to be a good product for the county.
That was going to be my question. The emergency management is involved in that?
Yes, they are. And she's,
All right.
yeah, and we've got everything. One of the things we specifically included was that this was part of the Natrona County Hazard Management Plan, and that's referred to. One of the problems that was in the old one is that it referred to a lot of things that were non-existent. There was constant references in there to a Natrona County fire plan. There is no Natrona County fire plan. There was a lot of things that weren't specifically referenced as far as codes. So that is, those are addressed now. So as far as which specific codes are actually applicable and which ones we're looking at. So that was the main thing. And the biggest thing that we came out of it was the access points, the bridges, things like that, so that they could actually get in, especially these new locations, and so that if they're crossing a bridge, they know that it's not going to collapse when they're halfway across it with their trucks.
Okay, that's it for Commissioner Roundtable. So we'll move on to legal.
I know one of the issues we talked about the last time on here were the petitions we have for the road vacations, the Grass Creek and West 50th. So I think we've determined with Grass Creek that even though there were some questions about the process, I think we're okay with the process and we think we can move forward with that one. So we'd like to try to set a date for that to go before the commission, potentially sometime next month.
Okay.
With respect to West 50th, that one, I think we've determined that we cannot move forward with that one due to the annexation agreement that we didn't realize existed, and the omission of the easement on within the viewer's report. So that one, I think we're going to consider that one closed, but we'll move forward with Grass Creek. And then for the future, we'll try to put together a process that complies with the statute, so we know what we're doing if we get another one of these, which I'm sure we will.
Okay.
Council, so for Grass Creek, are we required to have a public hearing?
So I think the confusion that we ran into, I think the short answer is yes, Commissioner Nicolais, and I believe so. That I think the question we ran into is setting a date for objections and claims for damages. I think we were thinking that we couldn't consider any other input from the public about that, and I don't believe that to be the case. That's just a deadline for folks who want to make an objection and claim that they're going to somehow be financially damaged by the vacation or the establishment of the road. I think that the board can consider additional comment if they choose to. So yes, I would say a public hearing is necessary.
So full-blown.
Yeah.
And then, did I hear on the West 50th, did I hear you say, so that one cannot move forward? Is that what you're saying?
That's what.
It's not the process was defective, it's that there are these fatal flaws to it?
That's correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Nicolais.
Okay. Do you have anything else on legal or any executive
Jared,
session
did I
items?
forget anything? Okay. So I think that's all we have for you.
Okay, and we have nothing for exec.
We had Commissioner Laird's not here. There were a couple issues that he had wanted our office to look into, but since he's here, maybe we can wait, or he's not here, we can wait until he's available to discuss those.
Okay. Well, that's all I have on the agenda now, so I guess we can stand in recess until 5:30 for this.
Mr. Chairman, can we go into executive session to discuss personnel? I had a question, and Commissioner North and I were talking, I think that there's a follow-up on a previous discussion.
Yep.
To find out where we're at and where
Yeah.
we're going.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a motion, and I'll second that motion to go into executive session.
All right, so we had a motion by Commissioner Nicolais, second by Commissioner North to go into executive session. Any discussion for personnel discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll go into executive session.
Peter, you just want